Well, let me talk about Basel III first. So there's some good ideas in Basel III. And I've said many times that the main issue that we're facing is an issue of continued financial crises because of the degree of leverage that we allow in our financial system. And this has not always been the case. So the Bank of England did an interesting study that looked at the degree of leverage in the UK financial system from 1850 to 2011. And it's a very interesting graph because it's graphed against real GDP growth. And you see kind of the usual patterns in GDP, fairly stable growth over the very long term. But if you look at the leverage has gone from 5 to 1 to 25 to 1. And I've also got a graph that was published in the Journal of Economic Perspectives for the US, kind of the same story. Over time, leverage has increased. So one way to reduce the chance of a crisis is to decrease the leverage. Dexia in the news, its leverage is 74 to 1. So not that much has to happen before you're going to be in a crisis situation. So, I can't, with $100,000 of equity in my house, I can't go borrow, whatever it is, $7.4 million. The bank laugh at me. But that's the sort of culture we've got. You go to the bank and say, oh, we're hedged. So we're okay, we can take this leverage. Well, the evidence is that you're not hedged, and we just have crisis after crisis after crisis. So this is, with the crisis in 2007, 2008, 2009, we had a major crisis in 1998 that was described as the most serious crisis since the Depression in 1998. And it was a crisis that was based upon leverage. Okay, we've had other crisis situations. Citi is I always pick on Citibank because they've been so many times to the trough. And there was a Latin American debt crisis where all the banks basically went zombie. When you've got leverage like this, to take a hit from Latin American debt, it wipes out your core Tier 1 capital. Okay? So basically the idea of Basel III was, let's increase the core Tier 1 capital rate, and let's be careful as to what we include for core Tier 1 capital. So they want to raise it to 7.5%, which still is very substantial leverage. If you're systemically important, that's going to go to 9.5%, which is still more than 10 to 1. And I guess my opinion is it doesn't go far enough. That will reduce the chance of a crisis, but not enough for me. So I much prefer to go to 20%, and that's what the Swiss have done. They just said to their banks, look, we're a small country, and given that our banking system is like 400% of our GDP, we cannot afford to take major risk. We're betting the country. 2 banks are betting the country. So they said, no way, 20%. The Vickers Commission in the UK just said 20%. And the way to get to 20 is you've got the Basel III at 9.5, and then you add another 10 of basically, they're called bail-in bonds, that it's debt, but it changes to equity at a crisis trigger, so-called COCOs. Good idea. And then when you've got 20%, you've still got 5 to 1, which is substantial, but we're hopeful that the hedging that they actually do is effective for 5 to 1. I've got no confidence that it's effective for 20 or 30 to 1. The problem, of course, is that everybody is up in arms about this. the UK banks, saying, oh, it's going to cost us, $7 billion a year. Okay. And I'm sure it would cost the US banks a lot more than that. But you need to look at that cost versus the cost of a recession. And what we're in right now, I don't even call recession. It's a period of deleveraging where it doesn't look like the standard recession that we've seen in the past, but it does look like things that have happened in the past that we tend to compartmentalize these things, simplify recession, recovery, the NBER deeming what the dates are for the peak and the trough. Well, this is just plain different, and we're faced with very slow growth. Credit Suisse put something out today that showed that given the current rate of job creation, and we've seen job creation for quite a while now. It's fairly slow, but we've seen job creation. That they said that with this pace of job creation, we will get back to the peak that we had in 2008 by 2017, a year after the end of the term of whoever the next president is. Okay, so this is a different game that we're in right now, and I think a lot of it is as a result of the disruptions that occurred with the financial crisis, and frankly, because we allowed too much risk to be taken.